Hey, Chrissy.
Hi, how are you?
Good. You ready to, 1, 2.
Give me a moment. I have Pat calling in.
Okay, looks like everybody on the council. Yep, everybody on the council's on, so whenever you're ready to go live and start recording, let me know. Where are we at, Chrissy?
We have an issue with the agenda link on the website. I need 2 minutes, Joe, and then I'll be done.
Okay, let us know when you're ready.
Hey guys, something to make it easier, possibly so we don't have the issue with the mics on and muting. If you mute yourself, and then you could just press and hold your space bar when you want to talk, like the microphones in the council room, then we don't have to worry about people forgetting to go back on mute.
That's handy.
Wow, Mr. Tech, I like that, Howard.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Mayor.
Great, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, we are on. The correction has been made to the website, but I am currently live streaming to YouTube. So I want to let everyone know who might be watching the live stream. There was an error with the link to the WebEx meeting on our agenda on the website. It has been corrected. So you can now use the updated link on the website to gain access to the WebEx meeting.
So are we good then?
Mr. Yachafano, do you think we have any issues moving forward?
You're muted if you're talking, John.
Based upon what you're telling me, I don't think we have.
Okay. Then I'm ready whenever you are, Joe.
Okay, we're recording. Okay, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag, United States of America,
America, and to the republic
for which
for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice
for all. Okay. At this point, we're going to take a moment of silence to remember the services and sacrifice of the armed service members who protect our nations and the first responders who protect our neighborhoods. Chrissy, please take the roll call.
Councilmember Kelly?
Present.
Councilmember Quinn?
Here.
Councilmember Freelander?
Here.
Councilmember Chris?
Here.
Councilmember Salberg?
Here.
Councilmember Brooks?
Here.
Councilmember Noon?
Here.
Vice President Sackett?
Here.
President Jackson?
Here. Quorum, thank you. Before we get started into the meeting, a couple things I want to go through. Please be advised that all electronic remote meetings of the Township Council held on WebEx are recorded. All members of the public will be provided the opportunity to speak during any public hearing or open to the public sections of the meeting. The Township Clerk will mute each member of the public and ask if you wish to speak. As per Rockaway Township Code 2-5.14, any person desiring to address the council shall first seek recognition by the presiding officer, and upon recognition by the chair, that person shall give their name and address for the record. Unless further time is granted by the council, they shall limit their statement to 5 minutes. Statements shall be addressed to the council as a body and not to any member thereof. A councilman shall not direct any questions to the speaker addressing the council except through the presiding officer. In addition to speaking on the record during council meetings, members of the public may submit questions and comments to the council by emailing questions@rockawaytownship.org by 6:45 p.m. With that said, everybody should have gotten this earlier today. I'd like to make a motion to recognize a resolution establishing rules and procedures for public comment during meetings of the Township Council of the Township of Rockaway held remotely / electronically on WebEx. Would anybody like to second the motion?
Second.
It was Mr. Quinn said it first. Chrissy, do you want me to read it or?
I can read it if you'd like.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, and we're going to assign it resolution number R20-181. Resolution establishing rules and procedures for public comment during meetings of the Township Council of the Township of Rockaway held remotely electronically on WebEx. Whereas the Township Council of the Township of Rockaway feels it necessary to conduct meetings of the Township Council remotely electronically on WebEx to protect the health and safety of the public, council, and administration due to COVID-19. And whereas Cisco WebEx is an online platform that allows for participation of the public, council, and administration during council meetings. And whereas the Open Public Meetings Act requires that all members of the council be provided the opportunity to speak during council meetings. Be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Rockaway that while meetings of the Township Council are being conducted remotely electronically on WebEx, the following procedure shall be followed for public comment. 1. During any public hearing or open to the public portion of any council meeting, the Township Clerk shall unmute any and all members of the public to provide them with the opportunity to address the council. 2, all procedures established by Township Code 2-5.14 addressing the council requires that any person desiring to address the council shall first seek recognition by the presiding officer, provided, however, that a portion of the regular monthly public meeting and the monthly conference agenda meeting shall be open to public comment. Upon recognition by the chair, the person shall give his address in an audible tone of voice for the record. Unless further time is granted by the council, the speaker shall limit their statement to 5 minutes. Statements shall be addressed to the council as a body and not to any member thereof. A councilman shall not direct any question to a speaker addressing the council except through the presiding officer. These procedures shall remain in place. 3, questions and comments may also be submitted to the council by emailing questions@rockawaytownship.org by 6:45 p.m. on the respective meeting date. I hereby certify the above to be a true copy of a resolution adopted by the Township Council of the Township of Rockaway at a duly convened meeting held on October 13, 2020.
Council President, can we have discussion on this?
I'll allow 5 minutes of discussion. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Kelly.
With relation to this resolution that we have here, there's a component on this is that we're limiting members of the public until 6:45, and depending on how we start our meeting, sometimes it's much later than our normal start date that we advertise at 6:30, and it could put people a little bit in pressure where they can't get there by 6:45, but yet before the start of the open public portion. So do we have to establish a time, because it could potentially maybe violate one's rights under OPMA, under 1046, to be able to participate, because if their email isn't reached by 6:45, but yet we haven't commenced open to the public portion, and they were to latch on or call afterwards, that could create or raise an issue of OPMA. The second question or concern I have on number 3 is that you're only limiting to one access of an email to ask a question, rather than the clerk to administration to you, council president. I mean, there could be another. You're limiting again the members of the public to potentially participate with only having one email that's there. So that's the other thing. And lastly is that this resolution only has a signature down for our clerk, and I could be wrong, and maybe she's the only one that needs to sign it, but I was under the inclination that the council president would ask to sign the resolution as well, and I would recommend that we have those signatures on those resolutions before we go farther after the passing of this resolution, if it does pass majority.
I'll ask Mr. Yachvano to provide any insight to Mr. Kelly's concerns.
Council President, first of all, just so the record is appropriate, this should be referenced by our clerk as a motion to amend the agenda for the purposes of this resolution.
Right.
Having said that, I would certainly have no objection to monitoring what I'm going to call email traffic from the public until the close of the public session. That would be fine with me. The fact of using a single email, in my mind, a single email address, you'll forgive my clumsiness with computer terminology, is appropriate. The purpose of a public session is to address the council. This is the council's meeting. It is not the administration's meeting. It's not the mayor's meeting. It's not the administrator's meeting. So I think a single email address for purposes of posing questions is adequate. As to whether or not the presiding officer, who is usually the council president, should sign resolutions in addition to the clerk, it is a formality, but it can be done.
Okay. So do we need to then change the resolution, that bullet point 3?
I don't have it in front of me, Council President. Bullet point 3 is which one?
It says questions and comments may also be submitted to the council by emailing questions@rockawaytownship.org by 6:45 p.m. on the respective meeting date.
Yeah, I would recommend amending that section of the resolution. I thought I sent an email around earlier today, but whatever the case, I would recommend a motion to amend that portion of the resolution to read until the close of the public session.
Can I make a request?
Sure.
Can we vote on adding the resolution to the agenda, vote on amending it, and then vote on the potential adoption of the resolution to keep
Sure.
everything clean?
That's appropriate, yes.
Okay, so I have a motion by Council President Jackson, second by Councilmember Quinn to amend the agenda to include Resolution R20-181.
Yep.
Councilmember Kelly?
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn?
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander?
Yes.
Councilmember Chris?
Yes.
Councilmember Salberg?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooke?
Yes.
Councilmember Noon?
Yes.
Vice President Sackett?
Yes.
President Jackson?
9 yeses. That was to amend the agenda. Is that right, Chrissy?
Yes.
Okay, next, I'll make a motion to amend number 3 of the resolution to change it to say instead of by 6:45 p.m., change it to by the end of open.
Close of the public portion.
By the end of public portion, right? You want to second that?
I'll second it.
Yes.
Okay. So I have the motion by Council President Jackson, second by Councilmember Kelly.
Correct.
Forever. Yep.
Thank you. Councilmember Kelly?
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn?
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander?
Yes.
Councilmember Chris? Councilmember Chris? Councilmember Salberg?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooke?
Yes.
Councilmember Noon? Councilmember Noon?
Yes.
Vice President Sackett?
Yes.
President Jackson?
Yes, that's 9 yeses. Would somebody like to make a motion on passing R20-181? Jack?
Council President,
Yes.
the motion should be to pass that resolution as amended.
All right, motion to pass the resolution as amended. Mr. Quinn made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's Mr. Friedlander.
Councilmember Kelly?
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn?
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander? Councilmember Friedlander?
Yes.
Councilmember Chris? Councilmember Salberg?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooke?
Yes.
Councilmember Noon?
Yes.
Vice President Sackett?
Yes.
President Jackson?
Yes, that's 9 yeses. Motion carries. Next on the agenda is number 5. This meeting was advertised in the Daily Record and the Star Ledger, the official newspapers for the Township of Rockaway, on September 19, 2020. Notice was posted on the official bulletin boards of Rockaway Township. Next would be approval of minutes. First, we have A, approval of regular meeting minutes for September 8th, 2020. Would anybody like to make a motion?
So
I'll
moved.
make the motion.
Jack and Manning.
Second.
Discussion, Council President?
3 minutes of discussion.
You have the September 8th, 2020 regular meeting minutes where in those minutes that are in draft form now, you have an amendment to the 6/23/20 regular meeting to include Mr. Yachafano as present. I strongly suggest that this council does not approve these minutes unless Council President and the other members of this council have actually reviewed documentation and proofs to validate that Mr. Yachafano actually attended the regular meeting of 6/23/2020. Has anybody reviewed any documentation to validate that? Phone records, text messages, emails to validate that he was there? A WebEx login record to prove and validate that Mr. Yachafano participated during the regular portion of that meeting? Would you care to answer that, Council President?
Nope.
Thank you.
Clerk, you can take the roll call.
Councilmember Kelly,
Abstain.
Councilmember Quinn,
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander,
Yes.
Councilmember Chris. Councilmember Sauber,
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks,
Yes.
Councilmember Noon,
Yes.
Vice President Sackett,
Yes.
President Jackson.
Yes, that's one abstention, 8 yeses. The minutes are approved. Next, B, regular meeting minutes for September 22nd, 2020. Have a motion?
I believe there was a correction on that.
So do we have the Mr. Yachafano? Should we be approving the amended minutes or?
Yeah, you can, if the minutes have been corrected prior to the vote, they can certainly be voted on in the corrected form.
Okay. So this will be a motion to approve the September 22nd, 2020 regular meeting minutes as corrected.
I make the motion.
Second?
I'll second it.
I'm sorry, who was the motion?
It was Mr. Quinn and Mr. Friedlander was the second.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Councilmember Kelly,
Abstain.
Councilmember Quinn,
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander,
Yes.
Councilmember Chris.
Yes.
Councilmember Sauber,
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks,
Yes.
Councilmember Noon,
Yes.
Vice President Sackett,
Yes.
President Jackson.
Yes, that's one abstention, 8 yeses. The minutes are approved. Next is open to public. Let me start with asking Mrs. Seeger if she's received any emails to our email address for questions.
Council President, I have not.
Okay. So, Ms. Clipperton, I'll let you go through and start opening it up to members of the public.
I have Al Cerullo. Would you like to address the council? Call-in user.
Chrissy, you needed to unmute Al.
Al was unmuted.
Oh, okay.
Call-in user.
No.
James Waters.
No comment at this time, thank you.
Lily Sweet.
No comment, thank you.
Lisa Salberg,
No, I'm good, thank you.
Patricia,
Yes, just, I want to mention that once again,
Ms. Degnan, if you could just state your name and
oh,
address.
sorry. Pat Degnan, 88 Valley View Drive, Rockaway, New Jersey. The township numbers again being used only this time for a scam with Social Security. And the number that they're saying it's coming up with is 973-627-3457. That happened just a little while ago.
Oh, boy.
And I know that Social Security does not call, so we've made mention it at our senior meeting in White Meadow, so it might be good to get that notice out, especially to all the seniors, that Social Security does not call you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stegner.
Patrick Egan.
Yes, hi, this is Patrick Egan, 59 Lennox Road. I'd just like to take a minute or two just to really commend the Rockaway Township Police Department for some outstanding work last week. As everybody knows, there's been, over the last several weeks or several months, break-ins to automobiles in Rockaway Township. And it's not just Rockaway Township, it's all surrounding towns. Every one of my friends has been telling me that, you know, their town has had issues as well. But on the early morning hours of Thursday of last week, I became a potential victim of a car theft right in my driveway. It was early morning, about 1 o'clock in the morning. My lights were still on. I have security lights. My TV was still flickering because I sleep with the TV on. And lo and behold, there were a couple of people who tried to steal 2 of the cars in my driveway. I did not lock the car, so one of the things we should all do, no matter what town you live in, is we should lock our cars. But with the quick-acting Rockaway Township Police Department, they were able, after an accident that one of the police officers had with the potential robbers, they were able to chase them down and catch, I believe, the 4 people who tried to steal my 2 cars. I just really want to, I was amazed at, first of all, just the professionalism of our police department. You know, 1:30 in the morning, and they were here till 4 o'clock in the morning with the investigators. Just the professionalism, the fact that they caught these guys was incredible. And that also wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for my neighbor, and I want to give another mention to Brett McGinley, my neighbor across the street, who happened to hear something outside of his window, decided to get up and look outside of his window and see 2 people in my driveway, a car in the front, and actually someone trying to break into his car. So he acted right away. He called the police. The police were there within seconds. Like, it's amazing how quick that this all happened. And they were able to catch the potential robbers or assailants or whatever we want to call them, and basically protect our town. And it's not only that, you know, my 2 cars weren't stolen, but I'm sure these guys were hanging around town for quite some time and maybe successful breaking into cars over the past. So Rockaway Township residents, we could sleep a little easier at night knowing that our police are out there. They're extremely effective. And I think it also sends a good message to potential robbers who want to come in this town, is don't mess with the people of the town because we got our eyes and ears open, and don't mess with the Rockaway Township Police because they will track you down and they will find you and there will be justice. So I just wanted to say that I'm proud of our police department. Unfortunately, I don't have all of their names. It was quite, you know, everything happened so quick. But, you know, if the chief is able to, or Mayor Puzio, if you're on the line, if you're able to get their names at some point, I think they should all be recognized because there were quite a few. And I believe there were like 4 or 5 police cars chasing this car down Fleetwood, which was actually captured on someone's Ring doorbell. So very, I want to say, exciting night at the Egan household, but I think it's a great night for Rockaway Township, knowing that our police department is out there in the wee hours of the morning and we're safe. So that's all I have to say. And again, thank you to the Rockaway Township Police Department. Thank you to my neighbor, Brett McGinley. And I think it's a lesson for all of us. Lock our car doors. And if you hear something or see something, call the police, because we'll all be safer for that. So thank you. You guys have a good evening.
Thanks, Mr. Egan. I don't know, Mr. Mayor, did you have anything you want to say, or are you good?
No, I just wanted to, I do have the names of 2 of the officers that were there. And these officers are always out there working hard. They have an excellent track record of patrolling and getting involved when necessary. Michael Hatzmahalis has been with us for a long time. He did an excellent job on this, as well as Steve Hart. I know there were a few others involved, but those 2 were first on the scene. I actually had a chance to reach out to those 2 officers and detectives and just say what a great job they did. I just want to, Council President, is it okay if I continue? I just want to piggyback onto that.
Sure, real quick. Yep.
We also had, it's nice to hear positive, positive things about our police force. Someone else had reached out to me. I don't know who the officer was, but I take my hat off to him. He was driving by Peterson Field, a resident, and they saw an officer there with a toolbox out helping a kid fix his bike. So they're there when we need them to do law enforcement work, as well as just to help the community. So it's 2 good things that happened over the past few weeks with our police department.
Awesome. Thank you. Chrissy, you can go to the next caller.
Paul?
I'm good, thank you.
Ron Cleland?
No comment.
Susan Smolin? Susan? And then bear with me, Joe. I have an individual. I have a William Chavella. It's not allowing me to unmute him, so I'm going to have to temporarily make him a panelist in order to allow him to speak.
Okay. Mr. Chavella, I think you're unmuted.
He is.
Mr. Chavella? Okay, doesn't look like he wants to speak.
Okay, I'm going to put him back as an attendee.
Okay.
And I don't see anyone. Oh.
Okay.
Calling user 5. Okay, that's it.
Okay. With that said, we'll move on to ordinances to introduce. O-20-22, an ordinance.
President?
Yes.
I believe we should ask Ms. Seeger if we've received any other emails now that we're.
Okay, yeah. Ms. Seeger, have we received any emails since we're closing public session?
Okay, let me check just a second.
Yep.
Oh, real quick.
I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, we have not, sir.
Okay. Go ahead, Jonathan.
From on the chat from an Al Cerullo.
What? Oh. I didn't look at that.
Council President, I requested to speak too.
Yep, and you've gotten your answer many times.
I asked in writing to the clerk to be a part of the open to the public portion. If you could please allow me to speak.
You've asked many times, and you got the same answer every time.
You're not going to let me speak, Council President?
You have plenty of time to speak as a council member. You have more than time to speak than everybody else.
I would like to speak as a member of the public.
You're not recognized, Mr. Kelly, so please stop speaking. Mr. Sackett, I can't read it. I can't pull it up. I can't see it. What's it say?
I have it on the Q&A.
You want me to read it?
Yeah.
It says from Al Cerullo. I guess maybe when Chrissy tried to mute him, it didn't work. It says, Al Cerullo, reference Mayor's letter to JCP&L of September 30th. Has anything been done to address the major issues with the power company as indicated in the letter.
Thank you. I don't know, Mr. Mayor, if you want to address that.
I'll speak to that in my report.
Okay, awesome. All right, with that said, the open
Now, Council
public
President, can I
disclosed.
be recognized again, Council President?
No.
I'm going to ask again to be.
Ordinance introduce O-20-22, an ordinance amending Article 16 entitled Streets and Sidewalks of the General Ordinances of the Township of Rockaway by adding Section 16-9 requiring the permitted conditional use of the public right-of-way by public utilities. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Councilmember Kelly?
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn?
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander?
Yes.
Councilmember Chris? Councilmember Sauber?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Noon? Vice President Sackett?
Yes.
President Jackson?
Yes, that's 9 yeses. Motion carries. Next is.
Mr. President,
Yes.
really quickly, I would just ask again that everyone mute themselves. I am getting a lot of feedback. It's making it very difficult to hear other council members when they're speaking.
Thank you. Next is B, O-20-23, entitled adding a new chapter to be known as Chapter 30, regulating and controlling the construction, maintenance, and removal of small cell installations. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Kelly?
Can we have discussion on this?
3 minutes.
Do we have a situation where this ordinance is something that we need to add to chapter? Is there a small cell tower that's going to be coming down that we should be aware of?
May I speak, Council President?
Well, you're recognized, Mr. Mayor.
No.
Thank you.
Okay. Clerk, you can take the roll call now.
Councilmember Kelly?
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn?
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander?
Yes.
Councilmember Chris?
Yes.
Councilmember Sauber?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Noon?
Yes.
Vice President Sackett?
Yes.
President Jackson?
Yes, that's 9 yeses. Motion carries. Next is C, R-20-24, an ordinance amending Chapter 9 entitled Animal Control of the General Ordinance of the Township of Rockaway. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Hey, Joe, shouldn't it say R-20-24? O-20-24, not R-20-?
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Yeah. Any discussion? Anybody wants to? Okay. If you could take the roll call when you're ready.
Councilmember Kelly? Councilmember Kelly?
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn?
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander?
Yes.
Councilmember Chris? Councilmember Chris?
Yes.
Councilmember Sauber?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Noon?
Abstain.
I'm sorry, you were breaking up.
She said abstain.
Thank you. Vice President Sackett?
Yes.
President Jackson,
Yes. That's 8 yeses, 1 abstention. Motion carries. Next is the consent agenda. R20-173, R20-174, R20-175, R20-176, R20-177, R20-178, R20-179, and R20-180. Can I have a motion?
So
I'll make the
moved. I
motion.
thought there was another ordinance 181.
Well, that was separate.
that was the
Separate.
resolution R20-181.
Yeah, that was the one we did earlier. So I'm putting Manny as the motion. Who's seconding?
Second.
Okay, Jack seconding.
Councilmember,
I actually made a motion to remove R2177 for discussion. It was muted though, unfortunately.
Anybody want to second that motion?
It's a $1 million cost there.
I'll second it.
So let's take a vote to remove that item for discussion.
give me one moment, I'm sorry.
Take your time.
Councilmember Kelly?
It's a $1 million expenditure, but yes.
No, we're
We're voting on removing it for
I
discussion.
know. Yes.
Councilmember Quinn?
No.
Oh, God.
Councilmember Friedlander?
Yes, I'd like to hear it.
Councilmember Chris?
Yes.
Councilmember Salberg?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks? Councilmember Noon?
Yes.
Vice President Sackett? Vice President Sackett?
He just walked away. There he is. Yes.
President Jackson?
Yes, that's 8 yeses, 1 no. We'll have 5 minutes of discussion.
Did Mrs. Noon vote no?
She voted no? I thought she voted yes.
I
did?
vote yes.
Yeah, she voted yes.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Kristen, do you want us to vote on everything else first?
If we could.
Yeah.
That's
So
fine.
now we have, we're going to vote on R2173, R2174, R2175, R2176, R2178, R2179, R2180. Mr. Friedlander made a motion and Mr. Quinn seconded. So if we could take the roll call on those.
Councilmember Kelly?
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn?
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander?
Yes.
Councilmember Chris? Councilmember Salberg?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Noon?
Yes.
Vice President Sackett?
Yes.
President Jackson?
Yes, that's 9 yeses. So back to discussion on R20-177. Mr. Kelly?
On R2177, Hudsonia Dam is in the Telemark area over there on the other side of KDM School, where the soccer fields are at Hudsonia Fields. The area that this has been, I mean, there's been some members, residents of Lake Telemark that have a large concern about this being torn down, potentially acting as if it's more of a buffer. And if there's any failure of any kind of vegetation that doesn't grow fast enough, and we have a heavy amounts of rain during that period of time of construction, the silt and settlement that comes down into Lake Telemark could be devastating of one of the inlets on the middle U section of Oslo Road or Drive. So we have a $1,025,043.50 of a bid amount and expenditures going there. Have we actually priced out what it would cost to repair the dam under the Dam Safety Act to make sure that the dam is safe of its construction and condition? It seems that $1 million to tear it down. Is there a possibility to repair it rather than breach it to maintain the body of water, which Mr. Salberg was looking to have boating and kayaking on bodies of water in Rockaway. People do fish and hike around there. And there's a little history to that of it being a Girl Scout camp back in the day. And again, if there was just something there that we did a little investigatory efforts to see, and possibly even having some grants to maybe achieve compliance for the dam and its integrity. So I didn't know if we've done that.
Mr. Mayor, you're recognized if you want to speak.
Can you hear me? Yes. Can everybody put their phones on mute for a moment? Thank you. Mr. Kelly, Councilman Kelly, do you have any other questions before I proceed? I'd like to just get all the questions in order, and then we'll answer them one by one.
You know what? I right now, I think my statement that was there, my questions and concerns, but there could be a follow-up question based on how you answer or Mrs. Ferrante answers. So I would hope that you would entertain a follow-up question concerning this $1 million expenditure.
Absolutely. I'm just trying to get everything in order that you have in your head right now.
That was my answer, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. I'm going to have our engineer answer this. This is a very complex issue that has been going on for quite a few years. Allison has a handle on this in terms of what we've explored, how many times it's gone out to bid, and some of the environmental implications. Allison, can you answer Councilman Kelly's question?
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, all right. Yes, this is a very large expenditure for the town, and as you can see from the accounts, it goes back, been saving money on this project for quite some time, since 2002. It was a review of the file. It was initially examined to be rebuilt, and at that time, the estimated cost, I believe it was possibly 09, did come back at over $1 million. Which was a third higher than the estimated construction at that time. Based on what we are looking at for Lake Ames rehabilitation, we can expect a over the $2 million, $3 million range for the breach that is so long at Hudsonia. So that's why the township did look into demolishing this dam. We also, at that time, when it was determined that it was the more economical path to demolish this dam, did seek grant funding to assist with the upland wetlands restoration.
Okay.
Is that it?
And then in addition to the sediment concerns, there are super silt fence and downstream control measures that have been approved by both the DEP and our local Morris County Soil Conservation District to mitigate any sediment controls. There will also be visual observations during the project.
Council President? Council President?
Yes, Mr. Salberg, you're recognized.
Thank you. If I'm correct, we're voting on, the awarding of a bid. So I would think this entire discussion is kind of moot at this point, since obviously we've already gone through the due diligence. We've generated a bid and we're about to award it to someone. Questioning spending the money on this, I don't know, I kind of feel that this is a little, late to the game.
Can I respond, Mr. President, to Mrs. Ferrante? as the mayor indicated I could?
Sure. Do you have a question for her? Another
I
question?
do, Mr. Mayor, I do.
Sure.
Mrs. Ferrante, you had mentioned that this is going back in 2002 and going back and forth of potentially restoring it to the condition of its integrity. But did we as a township, did we fail of doing upkeep and inspections on the dam throughout the years to where the condition of the dam is dilapidated to where we have to breach it rather than repair it?
You're muted if you're speaking, Ms. Ferrante.
Now can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, no, there was no ill maintenance with the dam. It's just because it is so long that to bring it up to today's standards as we have to do for our other dams in town, like Lake Ames and Mount Hope Pond, that much more costly to bring it up to the maximum probable storm. Also, I was mistaken. I said the fire goes back to the 90s. So this dam has been on the docket for some time now.
And Mrs. Ferrante, at that time, I don't remember you being there, but there was a meeting at Lake Telemark at the clubhouse.
Yeah.
Where we met with DEP, and there were questions and concerns raised about the potential of the breaching of that and the restoration of the pond area or body of water turning into the stream. But the amount of invasive disturbance that's there, if the vegetation didn't take, whether we had a drought or we had a large amount of rain that came through, like August 2011 and on the 27th with Irene, it would actually take all of that disturbance and work that was done and create even more damage and go downward stream. So this is the DEP saying this. I don't remember seeing Mr. Salberg there. Maybe if he was, he might recall that conversation with the DEP that we had. And Mayor Dackerson was available. He was there too. And that's what kind of spiked up a lot of the concerns because there's not many homes on the lake. There's only 14 on Lake Telemark. But again, the inlet and the amount of sediment that could potentially build during all of this stuff, there's a huge concern. And even though that there's a bid out there right now that we haven't approved yet, we could always table this resolution to see if there's something else that's available and maybe have more communications with Lake Telemark to see if their concerns, if anything else is additionally raised. Since this came out on the agenda only Friday, with Columbus Day being a holiday, many people couldn't even react to this when they found out that it was on the agenda for a vote. So I look at it that way, that's all.
Councilmember Kelly?
Yes.
Yes, I am aware of that meeting and read thoroughly the notes of that meeting and the concerns of the community of Lake Telemark. We do have a heightened awareness of the sediment that will be, will hopefully not be discharged at this project. That's why it's designed in such a way using cofferdams. So it will be monitored and and as all development projects, the control measures are not to be removed until stabilization has been achieved. In addition, the contractor does have a year maintenance bond with us to make sure they replace any dead or tree seedlings that haven't taken.
And
Thank you, Ms. Ferrante.
Follow-up, last thing.
I think our professionals did a great job going through this process and evaluating it. They got DEP approval. It's been disclosed. We've had meetings on it. I don't think there's much more to talk about. I think your questions were answered, Mr. Kelly. So,
well, Mr. Jackson,
does anybody else have any other questions?
Mr. Jackson.
I just have one comment, Mr. Jackson, Council President.
Go ahead, Ms. Seeger.
This is the second time it's been on the agenda because the first time it was over.
There she goes. She's going to play politics again.
I know. It's not politics. She's saying a fact.
Mindset.
She's saying a fact, Mr. Kelly. So,
she's not.
Does anybody like to make a motion to approve this R20S 177?
I make a motion.
Okay. Second. Ms. Noon.
Councilmember Kelly?
No.
Councilmember Quinn?
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander?
Yes.
Councilmember Chris? Councilmember Chris?
Yes.
Councilmember?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
I have to abstain.
Councilmember Noon?
Yes.
Vice President Sackett?
Abstain.
President Jackson?
Yes. That's 6 yeses, 2 abstentions, and 1 noes. The motion carries. Next on the agenda are mayor's appointments. 1, we have planning board, second alternate, unexpired 2-year term ending 12/31/2021. Kathleen Platts. Next is the Shade Tree Commission, or Shade Tree, Commission, unexpired 1-year term ending 12/31/2020. Deborah Harrigan and Alan Baldwin. Next is B, mayor's appointment with advice and consent of council. We have 1 appointment on the Citizens Rec Committee, Tim Fortune. Could I get a motion?
No, we have
Council President.
Add somebody too.
Council President,
Yeah.
can I be recognized?
Yes.
I also wanted to, for consideration, add Patrick Egan to the Citizens Recreation Committee. It was a last minute addition.
Yeah, right. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I forgot to write it in.
That'll require a motion to amend the agenda to make that appointment.
Yeah, so can we make a motion to amend and add second appointment, Patrick Egan?
I make a motion. I'll make a motion on that.
Okay. As second?
Second.
Okay. So Mr. Kelly and Ms. Noon, this motion to amend the agenda to include Patrick Egan on the Citizens Rec Committee.
Can we have some discussion?
Can we get through the roll call?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Councilmember Kelly?
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn?
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander?
Yes.
Councilmember Chris?
Yes.
Councilmember Sauber?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Noon?
Yes.
Vice President Sackett?
Yes.
President Jackson?
Yes, that's 9 yeses. The agenda is amended. We'll have 5 minutes of discussion. Go ahead, Mr. Kelly.
Are we voting on, well, I have a question first. Are we voting on each one of them individually or as a set?
Voting on them as a set.
Yeah, well, that's not fair, because if somebody wants to vote against one of them, I mean, I think we should vote on it individually. I do want to comment though. You know, we last minute, we got Mr. Egan's resume or his interest for this appointment. And we also received a resume from Mr. Fortune. And I got to tell you, I've looked at both of these resumes, and they're both very active and involved and very passionate for the sports in Rockaway Township as a whole. Looking at Mr. Fortune's resume, I mean, from 2003 to where he's at right now, he has done 17 years in multiple sports throughout the township. And I just know from him being at some of the dinners, him as well as other coaches, there would be Mr. Walters, Mr. Young, and so many that have actually taken some of the programs, even after the departure of Mr. Jackson, and bettered them so much and excelled them to such a higher level. But I am strongly for both of these individuals to be in that appointed position under the Citizens Rec Committee to move forward. So I would make a motion for Mr. Fortune and for Mr. Egan to be on those and approve the appointment of the mayor.
Anybody want to second his motion?
I just have a question, Joe.
Will you get the fuck out of here now? No more.
Wow, that's nice.
No more.
Nice language, Mr. Quinn.
Go ahead. Does anybody want a second?
Can I ask a question, Joe?
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Brooks.
Sure. I just have one question about the Citizens Recreation Committee, and one of you could probably answer the question there. I thought if you were currently involved with the program that they didn't want people on the committee. I thought it was for those that were not involved with programs that maybe were in the past, but not currently.
I don't know. I don't know what their bylaws say to say that. I'm not sure.
No one has expressed that to me.
Can I chime in?
Yeah, go ahead, Jonathan.
Yeah, if they're still involved, there's a little bit of a conflict because if we do have an in their program, how could they be voting on it? A little bit of a conflict, in my opinion.
You know, John, if I can follow up on that conflict concern.
Mm-hmm.
When we have a conflict, though, where does the conflict end? I mean, we have a councilman that participates in it and draws up plans for the committee to submit to the town. So are we being selective on this conflict?
I'm just saying, this is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think they can abstain from the vote if there's something on their program, I guess I would say. I mean, if there was a conflict, I look at it, they're volunteer positions. And I know I've been involved with both of these gentlemen. I know they've committed a lot of their lives and time to Rockaway. So I would just say let's, I don't know anything in the bylaws that says they can't be involved in the program to be on the Citizens Rec Committee. So
why don't you ask the attorney? He's getting paid to be here.
I doubt he has the bylaws in front of him.
Joe?
Yeah.
May I be recognized?
Go ahead, Mr. Quinn.
Yes, as the longest member on that committee, we look to residents that have been on committee on these programs. And if it does come up that there is a conflict within, let's say, if they were a coach in football and there was a problem with football, they would have to recuse themselves. There's enough people on that committee to deal with it. We don't need them to deal with it. Okay. If it's a softball issue, they recuse. So there is no problem with them joining.
Okay. With that said, Mr. Kelly made a motion to approve both these. Anybody want a second?
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Second.
Manny, okay. So Mr. Kelly, Mr. Friedlander. So Chris, you could take the roll call. So this is to approve Tim Fortune and Patrick Egan being on the Citizens Rec Committee.
Councilmember Kelly?
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn?
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander?
Yes.
Councilmember Chris?
Yes.
Councilmember Salberg?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Noon?
Yes.
Vice President Sackett?
Yes.
President Jackson?
Yes, that's 9 yeses. Congratulations, Mr. Fortune and Mr. Egan. Next, we have council appointments. We have junior firefighters, Emma Romano and Anthony Bongiovanni.
I make a motion.
Anybody want a second?
I'll second.
Clerk, you take the roll call?
Councilmember Kelly?
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn?
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander?
Yes.
Councilmember Chris? Councilmember Salberg?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Noon?
Yes.
Vice President Sackett?
Yes.
President Jackson?
Yes, that's 9 yeses. Congratulations to both of them. Next is old business. We'll have
Council President?
Yes.
Could we take a quick recess, please?
Yes, absolutely. It's 7:34 on my Verizon phone, so let's come back at 7:38. Is that good, Chrissy?
That should be, yeah.
Give her an extra minute or two.
Yep,
Thank you.
you got it. Oh, it's back.
How you feeling, Chrissy? You're muted.
I'm doing okay.
All right.
All right. Wait for a couple more people to come back. Who are we missing? Anybody? Mr. Brooks. Mr. Brooks, Mr. Sackett. There's Mr. Sackett. And there's Mr. Brooks. Okay. Next is old business. 3-minute time limit per council member. Anybody have old business?
Council President, I do have old business, and 3 minutes is definitely not enough for each of the 3 items that I have. So again, there's no provisions in any code that we have to minimize my time to 3 minutes. You give the public 5 minutes to speak. At minimum, I would request that.
Okay, 5 minutes, Mr. Kelly.
One
You said
for each.
Your idea.
For each.
5 minutes. 5 minutes total. Go ahead.
For each, sir.
Go ahead. You're wasting time, and don't tell me what
You're wasting my time. I have the floor. The quick question for old business. We have the Board of Commissioners that we just have recently, the council had approved. Are there any salaries or any payment for those commissioners? Council President?
I'm not here to answer your questions.
Mrs. Seeger, can you tell me if we had the Board of Commissioners are paid? Mrs. Seeger?
Councilman Kelly?
Yes.
Let me just see if I'm recognized by Mr. Jackson.
You're recognized, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, they receive a stipend.
They do. Okay. Well, we had at the last meeting, we had Councilman Salberg vote for his wife who receives compensation for this position. Isn't that a conflict? Nobody wants to answer that. This question in old business, Mr. Mayor, we have the speed monitor on Green Pond Road in the northern portion of Hibernia, Telemark area. Have we gathered data in regards to any issues that we have or an average speed if we need to address it by assigning officers on Green Pond Road?
What's your concern?
My concern is that, again, I've had two people that have complained about it with the location of it before the crosswalk in front of the playground. And when you come out of Telemark Road to go south on Green Pond Road, it does obstruct your view, more so around 4:30, 5 o'clock. Now that it's getting a little bit darker earlier, and the traffic flow going north on Green Pond Road, visibility is, I don't know if you've gone up there yourself. It is definitely an issue. And since it's been there for about 3 weeks, I don't know if maybe we can move it a little bit in another area in that northern area by the school where there's a large straightaway where speeders could go before the hill, or even down below where they seem to start by the Hibernia Firehouse. And I didn't know how much longer you were going to keep it there in that one section to compile data to see if we have an issue or concern for enforcement.
Council President, can I answer that?
You can.
Mr. Kelly, initially, you had reached out to me and what your concerns about moving that. And I relayed those concerns to the police chief. He was relayed to me that he went up there and moved the sign back to allow for, to address your concern. I also checked with a couple residents in that area in terms of who live in that area as far as pulling out to see if they had any issues. So I talked to a few people and they didn't express any concerns. So what, and correct me if I'm wrong, what you're telling me is that when you sent me an email about it being in the way and it was moved, that movement, the initial movement a few weeks ago was not good enough, that it's still obstructing traffic.
Well, if you spoke to those people, Mr. Mayor, I would imagine that you went up there yourself and kind of reenacted of getting onto the road there for my concerns. What'd you think?
Mr. Kelly, the police assured me that they moved it to address your concerns.
You didn't go up there and look yourself.
The other folks who live in the area have no issues with it.
Okay, the area that the monitor is in, as far as moving it, I think it might have been moved maybe 3 or 4 feet. And where they moved it to, it's closer to the Telemark Road and the crosswalk. Again, I'm not sure if you're talking to individuals on the Megans area, maybe North Cape that wouldn't even travel down that road, or maybe coming out of Telemark Road on the opposite side. But those that live on Valhalla, maybe Troll Lane, Telemark itself on the other side of the lake, again, you make the left to go south on Green Pond Road. It is definitely a block. You have to come out far into Green Pond Road or the end of Telemark to see beyond it. But again, I didn't know how much longer you were looking to keep it there. Because there are other areas by KDM School where the speed is somewhat out of control, especially where kids are crossing over there from the parking on both sides in that traffic spot. So I just didn't know how much longer or what data we were looking for to move forward. I love it that you guys are doing something, but I just think that it'd be better suited in maybe a better area than the playground and blocking view to enter onto Green Pond Road.
Council President, can I address Councilman Kelly?
Yes. Yeah.
Here's what I'll do again. I will speak to our police department as I did the first time. I'll have them, they control any traffic issues, any problems that are relayed to me as mayor or to the administration, I address through the police department. So what I'll do is I'll speak to the chief, I'll speak to someone in the command staff, send them up there again to take another look at it, to just see if your concerns, to look a little further, to delve into it. In terms of moving the sign around, I haven't received any other issues. Obviously, our resources are limited. in terms of how many signs we have.
Right,
So
right.
we try to move them around, as needed. Obviously the passage of time softens when people see the signs are gone. They tend to speed up. They tend not to pay attention. We move them back. So it's always like spinning plates, but
Right.
we will send somebody. I will send the police up there again to take a look at your concerns.
Okay.
And and just shoot me an email in terms of what issues you have with KDM with traffic, and I'll forward them to the police chief. Maybe we can do something down there as well.
Yeah, it was just speeders, especially with people crossing from one side to the other. But Mr. Mayor, I was really hoping that, based on you coming up in the area on Saturday for the Oktoberfest, that you would have maybe analyzed it or looked at it. That's all I was hoping for.
Yeah, I didn't see it as an issue. I quick drove by it, but I didn't want to analyze it. I didn't drive around from corner to corner. I kind of leave those things to the police, as far as they let them use their judgment. But I will send someone up there again.
And the last thing I have, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The last thing I have in old business is that people have, they've got to be witnessing. I know Mr. Brooks, his parents probably see it every day, of the work that's begun over at Park Lake for the dam repair that they're doing over in the borough. And it's drained down significantly. They've been monitoring it and whatnot. And when you look at the inlet that's going over there by Chestnut and the bridge that they had just the Legion into the water, and I think Mr. Brooks and I agree on this, of how much sediment has built up to such a high level, you can actually see the height difference of a shoreline that's there. So this has been old business. We've talked about it in the past. I'm a little disappointed in some of my colleagues here that seem not to have an interest in Park Lake. I mean, I have a councilman that's worried about indoor turf and golf carts, and we got a Park Lake that we got so much sediment coming out here, it's probably extended the shoreline 20 to 30 feet. So with that being said, is it too late for us to somewhat maybe jump in with the borough, since they already have an active permit? Maybe there's a potential amendment that maybe we can repair or restore or partially restore some of that inlet area at Park Lake and partner with the borough, which we should do as a neighboring community, to better not only what we have, but also to preserve the repairs that they're doing in the future. That sediment coming in there is just going to continue to flow into the body of that water in that lake. And it could end up, damaging or reversing the work that the borough is paying through their tax dollars to restore. It's just a thought. Maybe Mr. Brooks can partner up on that as far as the mindset, what we can do. It's just horrible to see it like that. It really is.
Can I jump in there, please?
Sure, you recognize Mr. Brooks.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to agree with Mr. Kelly on that one. It was pretty incredible to see the amount of sediment from the street sand, and you could tell the difference between the sediment that is formed from leaves compared to the sediment that is formed from the sand, which I will say most of it is probably coming from Route 80, from the tributary of how that all comes about. Because we do have a dammed area up on Mount Hope Road a little bit further. So all that sediment is literally coming from predominantly Route 80. So it was pretty interesting to see up until right before the rainstorm that the river didn't even breach the sand. It actually sunk down into the lake, and it actually wasn't breaching the sand that was there. So to me, it is a major issue that we need to, I would hope, deal with.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks.
Anybody else?
Joe, it's Jack.
Yes, Mr. Quinn, you're recognized.
Thank you. I believe Allison had said that all that sediment that is there coming off of Route 80 we would have to test for heavy metals. And that could open up a big can of worms if we start moving that. And it would cost us a lot more money to look at that way. If we want to go forward with testing and get the state involved, seeing they're the ones that are the culprits, having all that stuff come off of Route 80 into that lake and contribute to it, that would work well. I don't want to see our taxpayers paying for Route 80 stuff that's flowing through and into that lake.
Mr. Quinn, if I may be recognized, Mr. President?
You're recognized.
Mr. Quinn, I mean, to solely think that the state would be involved, I mean, the township and the county also kind of go through that area in sand. So I don't think you can pick and choose of one individual, because I believe all parties would be guilty, not intentionally, but for you to think just the state would be the ones that should take care of the burden of that, we're at fault too.
All right, so this is becoming a debate now, so I don't want
it's not. It's just providing false information.
Is there some motion or something you want to make out of this, Mr. Kelly?
Well, I think that we should make a motion to maybe analyze what we can possibly do now, since the water is down. It could be.
Is that your motion? Are you making a motion?
I'm trying to explain the motion so that they know how to vote, Mr.
The motion is discussed.
Explain the motion.
No, how it works is that you make a motion, somebody seconds it. No.
I know, but you
make a motion, Mr. Kelly. Make a motion. Make a motion.
The motion, Mr. President.
Make a motion.
The situation now, you're interrupting. I have the floor. Because of the situation that we have, I think it'd be prudent maybe that we can investigate. So I would make a motion to maybe investigate the costs to either, if there was required testing, or come up with a plan to move forward to somewhat restore our end of the lake, which is our responsibility.
Okay, that's the motion. Does anybody want to second that motion?
I'll second.
Mr. Yachafano, this is okay to be making a motion in old business and going through this?
Make a motion anytime you want.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. I appreciate your ruling. It would be acceptable, Council President.
Thank you.
Mr. Kelly, just so I know I have this recorded properly, your motion is to investigate the cost for any required testing and to establish a plan to address Rockaway Township's responsibility at Park Lake?
For the restoration of the shoreline.
Thank you.
We owe it to the borough.
Before we vote on it, I just want to make sure, I feel like this has been done already, and Ms. Ferrante and Mr. Mayor, I'll recognize you if you want to speak. I feel like we've done this already, and that's why we're doing what we're doing.
Council President, we have done this already. This is a repeat of maybe the second or third or fourth or fifth time.
Yeah.
It's a money issue. Unfortunately, the pot of money that we operate within is limited. And as mayor, I have to prioritize.
Yep.
I would love to do everything. I would love to spend, the $400,000+ that it would take to do our part at Park Lake. But I have to also weigh out the benefits to our residents who uses the lake, what value we get, what value the residents get out of that area, as opposed to the value that they would get from other areas. Obviously everyone knows that I'm trying to, part of my administration, or a lot of my administration, is focused on rehabbing Peterson Field and getting some of our recreational facilities improved. So unfortunately, the pot of money I wish it was unlimited, but it's not. More
than anything, I just wanted to make sure. I know we had talked this already. Mr. Kelly, you're not recognized any longer. You're not recognized any longer, so please be quiet or I'll call you out of order. So clerk, you can take the roll call now.
Councilmember Kelly?
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn?
It has already been done, so I vote no.
Councilmember Friedlander?
No.
Councilmember Chris?
No.
Councilmember Salberg?
No.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Noon?
No.
Vice President Sackett?
No.
President Jackson?
No, that's 7 no's, 2 yeses, motion doesn't carry. Anybody else have old business? Move on to new business. Again, 5-minute time limit. I'm going to start though with the discussion of best practice inventories. I don't know who's going to lead that conversation. Is that you, Mrs. Seeger, or?
I believe that's me, Mr. Jackson, if that's okay.
Oh, sorry, Ms. Palmieri. How are you?
That's okay. How are you?
Good. Go ahead.
Good. So I'm reporting on our annual best practices inventory questionnaire. It's been established by the New Jersey Division of Local Government Services since 2010. The purpose of this questionnaire is to assess each town's compliance with various laws and to obtain information on various topics. The 2020 questionnaire includes 60 questions in a variety of topics, including personnel, budget, financial administration, capital projects, transparency. There's a new one called COVID-19 response. It also includes procurement, cybersecurity, shared services, ratables, opportunity zones, liquor licensing, environment, and planning and economic development. The topics are classified into 3 categories, consisting of core competencies, best practices, and an unscored inventory. The minimum score to receive all of your state aid is a 16, and the township scored 24. So we're well above the minimum, and we will therefore be receiving all of our state aid allotment for 2020. The core competency category pertains to statutory and regulatory compliance obligations, while the best practices category pertains to fiscal and operational procedures. The unscored category is simply meant to gather information for the Division of Local Government Services and does not have any effect on the scoring or your state aid allotment. The questionnaire must be filed with the division by November 3rd, and it's currently on file in my office. And I will also be placing the questionnaire on our website tomorrow morning. If anybody has any questions?
I do.
Okay.
Good, Mr. Kelly, you're recognized.
Mrs. Palmieri, how many questions were there out of, I mean, the 16 was the minimum, 24 we passed. How many were there total?
There were 60 questions, only 25 were scored. There was about half that were just for gathering information.
And what was the one, I guess, the one we must have failed on?
There was one question that was we could not receive credit for.
What was that question?
It pertained to our personnel manual.
Something with the content of the manual, or?
Yeah, it pertained to a question pertaining to the manual. I believe it had to do with, I have to look it up. I don't recall exactly what it was. But again, it'll be on the website tomorrow if you have any questions.
Is this something that we've always had an issue with in years past?
I don't believe I saw this question in the past. I don't know that it's a repeat question. I know that they've questioned our the manual has always been a topic. This particular question, I don't recall if it was asked in previous years.
And is there a way that we can correct that issue so that we would score 25 out of the 25 rather than have one off? I know it doesn't affect anything, but why not try to exceed to, I mean, we have a accreditation where we try to do everything and make everything even. I know that in the past there's always been a benefit issue because council members take benefits or whatnot. That was an issue. And then this is the policy and procedure. If there's a flaw in that and it's recognized by the local government services, maybe we need to address that.
We are looking to address I'm working with administration now on revising and reviewing the personnel manual. We're waiting for guidance from JIF right now. Once we get that guidance, we're going to go full into it and make any adjustments, including any adjustments to the personnel manual that need to be done.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Palmieri? Okay, I'll move on to the council members. Again, 5-minute time limit for new business. Anybody have new business?
I have 3 new business that are there, and again, would ask for the 5 minutes per issue.
5 minutes, Mr. Kelly.
The one thing that we have here, we have the inspection coming up for the fire department, which I'm excited to go. It's always very appreciative of the time they put away to show us how they keep their equipment and facilities. It's a shame that we don't have the banquet this year. But that being said, we have the banquet that we're not having, and that banquet is we had allocated $24,000 for that banquet, and it's under our accounts that we have here. Account would be 01-25-265, and the sub account would be 173. And on that sub account 173, it says annual inspection banquet, and it's $24,000. I believe we got our deposit back from the venue, and there's 24 grand that's floating right now. From what I understand, that there may be some monies that are going to be given to each department. We have 5 volunteer departments, and there's Green Pond as well. And if each one of those departments receives $1,000 to maybe have their own party or type of food and whatnot after the inspection, or the reimbursement for a prior party they may have had for their families and spouses and the members, we have $19,000 that are left over. So to me, first of all, I mean, I think any expenditure should come through us to see what we're going to do of what we had in the budget, if we're going to move any monies. But for me to see $19,000 potentially go back into the general, I think that I would be a little bit disappointed with that, because the fire department, when we go to each one of those inspections, I ask a lot of questions. I know some of you frown upon that, but I do get a lot of feedback from each department of what their needs and concerns are each time through the budget. And the administration cuts a lot out of the budget before we actually get it. And we never really trimmed the budget for the fire department other than capital. This year, we moved the capital for next year to double it up for the $500,000 for Peterson Field over a safety apparatus. But in this case, I feel that the $19,000 that's left over, again, the $1,000 that is going to each of the 5 companies, what's left over, I think we should move that into a budget line. We have fire and safety equipment. We have vehicle maintenance. As what was expressed at those last inspections, there was a lot of need for vehicle maintenance on some of the vehicles in each of the companies. And of course, the fire and safety equipment, you know, for their actual gear they have, there's scuba gears as far as the tanks for Scotch packs. There's also ice gear for ice recovery. So I'm going to make a motion here, and Mrs. Palmieri, maybe help me out with the line items. I would like to make a motion to move the monies from sub-account 173 of what would be remaining of the $19,000. Again, the $5,000 being disseminated amongst the 5 companies, $1,000 each. That we would put $9,500 in sub-account 056 for fire and safety equipment, and put the other $9,500 in sub-account 025 for vehicle maintenance.
Can I just make a suggestion?
Yes, absolutely.
You typically do budget transfers for the current year budget November 1st of the year, November and December. And those transfers are done between departments. What you're asking to do is a transfer internally within the fire department. It doesn't need to be done by resolution. There's nothing wrong with doing a motion, but as long as you don't overexpend the department's operating expense budget, there's not a need to do a transfer.
But how do we move that money? Where was the money going to go that wasn't going to be used for the banquet?
Well, again, it could stay within the banquet line and be used. We would just overexpend, so to speak, the two lines that you're looking to do, as long as the total fire department does not go over the entire operating expense budget. What you're asking to do tonight, it's possible you're just going to do an internal transfer between budget lines within the department. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that it's not necessary. It doesn't have to be done by resolution.
Okay. So if I make a motion to move am I accurate on the $5,000 to each total for each department?
I believe each department got $1,000. Yes.
Okay, so we have a $19,000 amount that's allocated in that sub-account 173.
Right.
Right? And in the moving of that money, of the $1,000 for each company, the council had nothing to do. We don't have to anything to do with that. That can be done internally. It seems like the administration is the sub-account 173 was for the banquet, but we're not having a banquet, but yet we're giving them $1,000 each. Is there anything that the council needs to do that to make that happen, even though it already did?
No, it was perfectly acceptable to have that happen.
Okay. So if nothing would contaminate the account, if we put the $19,000 back into each individual line that I had suggested, there's nothing that, because we're not exceeding it. I'm not putting 22,000 or 25,000, even though 5's already been spended.
As long as you're not moving, which you're not, but as long as you're not moving that 19,000 into another department, such as police, you can't do that now. That would only be able to be done after November 1st. But as long as you're doing it within the operating budget of the fire department,
okay,
I don't see a problem.
So I would make a motion to move $9,500 in sub-account 025, as well as the other $9,500 in sub-account 056 for the fire department, so they can buy more safety equipment and have additional maintenance done on some of the vehicles in the fleets.
Council President, may I be recognized?
Yes.
The administration works closely with the fire chief, and just to sum it up, we've discussed this with them. We don't just make moves unilaterally where we don't discuss with our department heads or different sections that we're going to be working with, and they were satisfied with what we did, with everything, with the banquet and whatnot. So this was not done in a vacuum. When obviously the banquet was closed was shut down due to COVID.
Right.
But we had discussions with the fire department. So I'll just leave it at that.
Well, I appreciate that, Mr. Mayor, but the fire department relies based on what you do and what you've cut, like you have cut in the past in prior budgets. And of course, the council in the past, the new council, has approved that and even has increased it, especially when it comes to training. So I think the fire department just accepts what they get. As far as showing their dissatisfaction for the budget, you went and took away you took away money out of the capital that was pre-orchestrated prior to our budget discussions in February to make it $500,000 towards the Peterson Field. I'm sure a lot of the members weren't happy about that. But again, I have a motion. You guys can vote in favor for it or not.
So anybody like to second Mr. Kelly's motion?
Life and safety equipment, and you guys are going to balk on it.
It's not.
I'll second.
Council President?
Yes.
We're in the middle of a motion, Mr. Yachafano.
I'm recognizing him.
But you don't allow people to recognize during a motion.
If what Mr. Kelly's suggestion is potentially illegal, I think the council wants to hear my opinion.
I would want to hear it.
Council President, as you know, the council approves the entire budget submitted by administration. Once the budget is approved, the allocation of funds within the budget is customarily an administrative function. Okay? There appears from what Ms. Palmieri has told us that there's absolutely no urgency in effecting this proposed transfer that Mr. Kelly's motion appears to be about. I think, and as usual, there's no notice of this budget transfer before the new business topic tonight. I suggest that it would be inappropriate for the council to act without at least the recommendations of administration, which may or may not require a formal transfer resolution, which is not even mature until next month. There is a possibility that this would be overreaching on behalf of the council and would be tinkering with a budget that the council has already approved when the allocation of funding in the budget is normally an administrative function.
Thank you for your insight. Clerk, you can take the roll call.
Councilmember Kelly?
As Mrs. Palmieri indicated, it wouldn't be an issue. I vote yes.
Councilmember Quinn?
I will vote no because I believe it should be done in November.
Next.
Mr. Kelly. Don't interrupt him.
You can't talk.
Don't interrupt anybody.
You can't talk, Mr. Jackson.
You can talk. You talk more than anybody. Go ahead, clerk. Please continue.
I'm the only one that has business sense.
Councilmember Friedlander?
No, I'll go with the administration's theory on it.
Councilmember Chris? Councilmember Chris?
No.
Councilmember Salberg?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks? Councilmember Brooks?
No. Here. What?
Was that
you're on mute. Yes.
I said yes. I said yes.
Councilmember Noon?
No.
Vice President Puckett?
No.
President Jackson?
No. That's 3 yeses, 6 noes. The motion doesn't carry. Anybody else have new business?
So I have two more, Mr. President.
No, you are no longer recognized. You well exceeded your 5-minute limit.
Council President.
Please stop talking. Please stop talking.
Council President.
You're out of order, Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kelly, you're out of order. You exceeded your time limit. You're out of order.
I'm not. There's no
You're
time
out of
limit,
order.
Council President.
You're out of order. Please stop
I have
talking.
two that are very quick.
You're out of order.
Council
Does
President.
anybody else have new business?
Mr.
Does
President.
anybody else have new
I
business?
have a motion, Council President.
I do.
No other new business. We're gonna go to Council.
I have a motion, Council President.
I have new business.
Mr. Brooks, you have new business. Go ahead, Mr. Brooks.
Yes, thank you. Just a quick piggyback. I understand, what we discussed about Park Lake. The only question I do have for administration is with all the tires and all the debris, I know we can't remove sediment, but are we at least able to get in there and remove all the garbage?
We can look at that, see if we're allowed to. Sure.
Anybody else have new business?
Yes, Council President, I do.
Go ahead, Mr. Quinn.
Yes, dealing with JCP&L, there is still a branch that is stuck into the wires on the corner of North Street and Route 15. I've been told by administration that they are still in town cleaning it up. I would just request that they don't leave town without taking that limb out of that major wire.
You. Anyone else?
I have a motion, Mr. Jackson.
Mr. Noon, Ms. Noon? Yep, go ahead.
Just a quick question, and it doesn't have to be answered tonight since we do have one more meeting. I'm just wondering if there's going to be any restrictions to trick or treating. I know all the town stuff has been canceled, but I was just wondering if there's going to be any curfews or any restrictions.
May I answer, Council President?
You're recognized, Mr. Mayor.
I collaborated with the health department, and we're not holding any formal events like trunk or treats or spooktacular, but we are allowing the children to trick or treat. And what we did is we put out guidelines in terms of best practices for, COVID.
Thank you. Mr. Kelly, you want to make a motion?
I do, and the motion is dealing with Hope One. We have them coming on the 21st of October.
Make a motion, Mr. Kelly.
I'm explaining the motion, Council President.
No, discussion happens after you make the motion. Make the motion, please.
And the Hope One.
Make the motion.
I do. You're interrupting me.
Make the motion.
I'm introducing the motion.
No, you're
If you would just
discussing
stop
it.
interrupting me, you would probably get it done sooner than you
Stop
think.
discussing.
So the Hope One that we have coming on the 21st, that's here. And Mr. Mayor,
Listen, this isn't a discussion with the mayor. Make your motion and then we can have discussion.
Are we going to have discussion on it?
I don't know. Make your motion.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm going to keep introducing my motion.
No, you're not recognized then. You're out of order. You're not making a motion. If you make a motion, I'll recognize you. You're not making a motion. You're having discussion.
I recognize you continue to interrupt me while I'm recognized, Council President.
You're out of order.
I'm not out of order. You're recognizing me to make a motion.
And you're not making a motion.
If you would stop interrupting me, I could
You're
make
not
my
making
motion.
a motion. You're Mr. Gaspano, is there a difference between discussion and making a motion?
There is, Council President. Customarily, what would happen in situations like this is the member of the council would state the motion, then there would be a required second to the motion. Assuming the motion is seconded, that would be the time for discussion. What is required is a clear statement of the motion absent any introduction or discussion.
Go ahead, Mr. Kelly, make your
That
motion.
we introduce resolutions and motions on the agenda.
Make your
to have
motion.
availability
Make your
and
motion.
backup data to know to vote on it.
Make your motion.
My motion is, whereas the Township Council of Rockaway, County of Morris, State of New Jersey, recognizes the abuse of alcohol and drugs as a serious problem in our society amongst persons of all ages, and whereas the Township Council further recognizes that incumbent upon not only public officials, but upon the entire community to take action to prevent such abuses in our community, and whereas the Township Council has recommended that the township participates in the Morris County Police Assisted Addiction Recovery Initiative, which is PERI, program designed to give individuals with substance abuse disorders a safe way to seek help for their addiction. Now, therefore, be it resolved, Mr. Jackson, by the Council of the Township of Rockaway, the County of Morris, and State of New Jersey, that the Rockaway Township Police Department is authorized to participate in the PERI program, which is Mr.
Resolution, not a motion.
One, we have our Hope Mobile.
So you're making a resolution or a motion, Mr. Kelly?
That's my
a
motion.
resolution.
That's my
All right,
motion.
does anybody want to second his resolution? I mean, motion?
Council President.
No, but we don't do anything till we have a second, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, now you're gonna change your mind.
Second this. Okay, moving on. Next is council reports. I'm going to start from the top of the screen, Mr. Salberg.
Good evening. Yeah, just a few things. Had an opportunity, along with Vice President Sackett, to join the inaugural meeting of Rockaway Unites. It's a lot of very passionate people with some great ideas, and I think they're going to make a very positive impact on the town. We advised, we had great communication with them, and again, I'm looking forward to our next meetings and to watch this grow into something very meaningful. Also, along with the mayor visiting the Telemark Country Club Oktoberfest, looked like a good turnout. Looks like they were making some money, which of course is critical for them. And again, I hope anybody had an opportunity to get out to get out there. Also, just been a real increase in bear sightings lately. Obviously, they're moving around, so everybody, please be careful. Up here in Telemark and Hibernia, it's becoming pretty much a nightly event. Getting a little brazen. They're coming out a little earlier. So, watch the pets and just be careful out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brooks.
Thank you. First thing was, I just wanted to let everyone know who maybe doesn't know that the governor is now going to be allowing indoor sports to take place, which is a big plus for a lot of both boys and girls throughout our town. So that's going to be a good thing. And just wanted to make sure that everybody hopefully got their ballots for voting. and make sure that you read all the directions thoroughly to make sure that your vote does count. That's bad.
Thank you. Mr. Friedlander.
Okay, nothing to report, status quo with the Historical Society. Library is moving forward. I just want to just shout out and thank administration and the departments for looking over the ordinance committee's revised ordinances, helping people moving in the right direction. And what he said about the bear, now we don't feed wild animals in the township property, on private property, because this will eventually just increase, and you'll look in your backyard, you'll see deer and bear and just having a picnic. So thank you for revising and helping the ordinance committee moving forward. And that's it.
Thank you. Mr. Kritz.
Weekend, the Rockets had their first home games. A lot of different rules in place thing. I was glad to see that everything went pretty smooth. Happy to see the mayor there, Quinn there. Everybody enjoying themselves, and most importantly, people for the most part being responsible. There's changes in the parking patterns there to try to keep things socially acceptable. So a good job there. And then to add on to what to the mail-in ballots, just to let you know, there is a drop box at the police station. It's right outside. It's easy. So mail them in, or of course go and utilize that drop box. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Quinn.
Yes, thank you. As Howard said, I was at the football game and I had a chance to look at the new playground that the kids eventually will be playing on. It looks fantastic. They were all standing outside of the roped off area looking at it, waiting patiently to get on. It looks fantastic. I'm very happy to see this starting to come alive. We do have a planning board meeting on Monday night coming. I'll be attending that. And we did have a rec meeting where we have new person running the rec our committee. And we're introduced the new people to get their feet wet and start moving them forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Noon.
Yes, I just wanted to say really quickly that the project, I wanted to thank administration for answering all of the questions. Rockaway Borough is replacing the water main on Herrick Drive. So that has started, and hopefully it'll go smoothly and there'll be no bumps, but that's going to be quite a project for a couple of weeks. And thanks administration to answering all the questions. Thank you.
Mr. Kelly.
Council President, I got a couple of things here that are important through my my ward as well as the township as a whole. One is the Valley Road Bridge up there off of Denmark Road. The contractors there, CMS, are doing a phenomenal job with a lot of supervision from the county on a daily basis. Even on the weekends, the county inspectors are there. Though there's not a lot of residents that are down there, but there is some truck traffic from the business that's on the end. But they are doing an expedited and a phenomenal job in accommodating the residents there. Also, the Telemark Oktoberfest, as Mr. Sauberg was talking about, they're trying to raise money for an aeration procedure to go in there to try to help out the lake, all the money that they possibly can. There is some financial difficulties going on, and through these fundraisers and everything else and volunteerism, we're trying to achieve their goal, and I do see them coming to do it. The dog park in Snake Hill, just a reminder, if there's some more interest that's taking place, again, I think having it at the Peterson Field complex would be a poor decision, a potential liability and risk. if anybody was to get hurt or maimed, of having a dog have to walk through all those people and the concession area and playground to get to the dog park location. That's been somewhat put on a plan in prior months and last year. Also, I do recall that there was a time frame that we needed to put something in place over where the RT Council was, which I keep trying to push the dog park, that people would donate their time and materials and labor and equipment to install without costing the taxpayers any money. I don't know how much more time we have, if there's any ramifications from the state for not having something there. Rise Up, which is the Holy Trinity Lutheran Church, Pastor Jack there, who's always doing a phenomenal job and working with the pantries and other churches and organizations of faith. We're getting cold times now. It's getting a little bit colder, and the collection for sleeping bags for homeless would be a great thing. So if anybody has a sleeping bag that they haven't used in a while, if they could just wash it, drop it off over in the vestibule at Holy Trinity. Also the Dover location where the soup line is, that's down there for the food that feed the homeless. That's another area of dropping it down there on Blackwell Street, which is kind of a good thing to do. Sometimes they lose their shelter that they have, and some of them don't take any offering of shelter. They live, again, in the Rockaway Borough, Dover, Denville area. So anything that anybody would have would be great for a collection. Mr. McKeon, if you recall, some of you, he came last year because there was a scouting project to do for his Eagle Scout, and he is doing the kiosks over there on Meriden Road, just after Meriden Estates. I've been there on 2 different occasions to bring the materials and dig holes for the footings, resurrected the actual structure itself, the roof, and he's just doing the finishing touches, and it looks great. And even the people that were coming down the trail of Wildcat Ridge, bikers and hikers, have been very complimented on what Mr. McKeon has done. And he's done a phenomenal job with his little team that he had assembled to do the same thing to get his scouting end of it. NGG has been doing a phenomenal job with clearing trees. And Mr. Mayor, I would love to have a ability to talk about your letter and JCP&L and Mr. Saluro of his letter and concerns, or can I take it in now? Maybe we can have some dialogue with regard to JCP&L.
I'm not going to have any dialogue now. I'll update you when I give my report tonight.
All right, so then I'll go into that real quick, and that will be the last thing I have. I did have an opportunity to read your letter that you wrote on the 30th of September of 2020 and dealing with JCP&L. And every time we have this loss of power, a lot on the northern end, and it's not just in Rockaway, it's in a whole host of areas that are there, I do take it pretty serious. I do go out there, assess the areas, I do contact dispatch, meet with those linemen that are on the road from different states, come up with an idea. And I also respect Al, the individual, the resident that writes to our governing body and the mayor. He does put a lot of time and effort into his concerns and vocalizing those concerns. However, I think the letter that you have to Mr. Falco, the president of Jersey Central, couldn't be farther from the fact. I mean, you really went in a bashing way, providing no evidence of any sort. Like, you go in there about Superstorm Sandy, and you somewhat tell him, basically call him a liar, saying that it's incorrect about we would endure less damage than Superstorm Sandy. And we did, actually, Mr. Mayor. But what the people don't know, and I don't hear the mayor in this letter or anywhere in the public, you know, there's our local OEM that provides information to our county OEM who directs JCP&L where to go. They prioritize it. The township prioritizes it, then gives that prioritization list to the county, and then the county then directs JCP&L. 80% of what happened on Isaiah's storm that we had back on August 4th was roughly 2 large trees that came down and took out equipment. Now, Mr. Mayor, you could have a brand new pole up, and if a tree comes down that could be 30 feet off the right-of-way, that's 60 feet high, no responsibility of JCP&L, could potentially even be on personal property or even township property or county property, JCP&L takes the blame. They also endure the cost of what it is for the damage that was created. So when we look in Superstorm Sandy, you know, they had about 1.2 million customers with loss of power. And in this Isaiah storm we had about 700,000. Sandy, in 96 hours, they restored over 50% of the people on, you know, to get them back on power. And the same thing, they work vigorously throughout the clock. Again, they also time out because 16 hours for the crew. They do the best they can, and weather permitting sometimes hinders those repairs. Somewhat going after JCP&L, and rather than give the letter to the rest of the council, you go and post it on social media. So now this thing becomes a political post rather than really a concern that you have about JCP&L and what they do or they don't do. Osmos is a company that actually does inspections on poles, Mr. Mayor. You know how long it's required for them to do inspections on poles? Every 12 years. JCP&L ups it by 2 years and does it in 10. NGG, we get notification from them with the JCP&L for the vegetation control. We get constant emails about the helicopters and everything else going on there. So what I don't hear is, without that type of aggressive attack on our vegetation and everything else in the last couple of years, that 700,000 customers that were lost could have been 1.2, 1.5, maybe even 2 million. So going after JCP&L in the way that you did, completely unprofessional, no facts to do anything. JCP&L's inspection and evaluation of its equipment. You could have a new transformer, Mr. Mayor, a tree that comes down on your property 30 feet away from the road, takes out a line, takes out that new pole, that new transformer, and all the lines. Some of the poles are Verizon poles. Then there's a problem with Verizon coming in to replace those poles to get power up as well as communications. We've had those issues on our own property in the township. So there should be maybe a serious look working with our OEM local, as long as with our county OEM and JCP&L, who does a phenomenal job, in my opinion. And rather than complain about the 2 days or 3 days that we don't have power, we should look at the 362 days or 5 days that we do have power. Now, if they went through with all this infrastructure, it's $1 million a mile to put underground lines for JCP&L. Where do you think is going to get the money from? They're going to go after the actual consumer, the customer. They do the same thing when it's PSE&G. New York State made them get money back. They do the same thing in Jersey. But then their rates are affected by that for the consumer and customer. So rather than do this, I think we should work together with JCP&L rather than criticize them. And if anything, you should be very open and honest of the information that takes place behind the scenes that, by the way, JCP&L, not their fault, become the fall guy. So I know that there's some things and some hiccups. I've never seen you at one of the Morristown events that JCP&L has to see how their infrastructure, their dispatch, and everything else works. I saw Mr. Sackett there. I didn't see you there, Mr. Mayor. And you hear from all the other elected officials and the concerns that they have and what they do. But this letter is garbage. This is a political letter to try to appease some people, to put it on social media. And that, my friend, is something that is completely immature, not necessary, and unprofessional, period. So if you want to create a committee or have us create a committee, so maybe we can have a liaison for JCP&L, work with them, they're professionals. We have other individuals that we can go to. We have Mrs. Espinoza, Mr. Ortez, we have Mr. Flynn. Of course, you didn't even know how to contact Mr. Falcout, the president. You had to try to find an email or a number rather than call him and deal with it. So you know what? You should look at some of these things beforehand, or maybe, I think you even said it sometimes, I think the problem might be who you see in the mirror. You should have read this before you submitted it, and after you read it, you should have deleted it. That's all I have for my report.
Thank you. Vice President Sackett.
Okay. I'm not angry. I'm in a good mood. Got tonight. Let's see. Nice meeting, me and Jack, with the Citizen Recreation Committee last week. They do have a bunch of new members. Congratulations to Tom McGinley, who's the new chair of the committee, and looking forward to a lot of members on the committee as well. Also piggybacking off of Councilman Sahlberg, nice preliminary meeting with the members of the Rockaway Unites and Anti-Racism Committee that they're forming. Me and Mr. Selber gave them a ton of advice and helped them try to get it going. And also a big thank you to Mayor Puzio to help us with a couple of different people we're going to need for committee. So we appreciate that as well. I was down at the Rockets over the weekend, earlier in the day, and saw the mayor there as well. And it's funny because Councilman Kelly, every time he gets a chance to take a hit at the Peterson Field project, how many people came up to me over the weekend, so excited about it, looking forward to the new tennis courts, looking forward to the basketball courts, looking forward to the turf field. I guess he's not going down. I never seen him in any Rockets games. But
you haven't had any. You had one.
Stop interrupting people, Mr. Kelly. Nobody interrupted your tirade.
Yeah, the excitement that they have, the kids have, the families have. Looking forward to a redone Peterson Field. So I'm excited about it. The playground looks great. Looking forward to that being opening, and just looking forward to the whole project being done. And I'm pretty sure that there's no. We took the dog park off of that, so I'm pretty sure that's not on there either anymore. Also, a lot of events this weekend coming up. I know the mayor has a Table of Hope event this weekend as well, as long as the fire department inspection starting at 12 o'clock. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. I have nothing to report this week. I'm going to move on and let the mayor do his report.
Thank you, Council President. I'm not going to dignify Councilman Kelly's remarks because he doesn't even know what his job is. He states that he went to the cruise during the storms to go look at polls. It's not his job. He doesn't even know what his job is as a council person. And if he would have taken the time, I'm not going to read the letter that I wrote to JCP&L, but if he would have taken the time and looked over our ordinance tonight, our 2022, he would have seen that this is going to address some of the issues with, if you go directly to that ordinance, the purpose of ordinance 2022, without reading the entire ordinance, is to ensure the township's control over location, construction, and continuing maintenance of all public utility equipment located in the township right away. I've been getting complaints for over a year now about issues with power, with telephone poles, with maintenance. Anyone can drive through Rockaway Township and see that there's trees that are in the wires and whatnot. And there's supposed to be a maintenance program through JCP&L to lessen the amount of outages. And that's what we're going to try to do. That's what this ordinance is going to give us the ability to do, to control what we haven't in the past been able to control. Where if any work is done on telephone poles, if there's any replacement, they're going to have to notify the town. So now we're going to give the town some areas that we can control and help the residents maintain power. As far as the facts and figures, once again, Mr. Kelly never reaches out to me through an email or whatnot. He grandstands here. He throws out some facts and figures that sound convincing, but when you delve into them and you sit down with professionals, they never hold up. Okay, with that said, I want to thank the council as a whole. We've been working very hard with our town attorney, and I want to give John Yachifano and Carl Perrone from Yachifano and Perrone, our TAs, a round of applause. They've been working diligently with us to get our ordinances updated. And as I spoke of, 2022 is going to address some of those poll issues. By Mr. Cerullo, he sends letters to me quite frequently with his concerns, as do other folks reach out and contact me. So we're addressing those issues with JCP&L. If anyone notices, we had them come last year, a representative, and we talked about infrastructure improvements, switching improvements, all of those things that are going to help our residents have a power supply that is uninterrupted, that's going to help us weather some of these storms. The ordinances that we've been writing, we had MPAC come over the weekend, and they had 2 concerts at our mall. The special events permit, ordinance allowed that. So that is wonderful. That's just one example of some of the work that the town's been doing to make things a little bit easier, to lessen regulations. Right now, I'm working on Adam Salberg, our Councilman Salberg, Councilman at Large. He's up in the 6th Ward. A while back, we passed that ordinance as far as allowing boating and watercraft on some of the lakes. Well, what I'm trying to do right now is update our website and get some improved language, some improved documents, working with our engineer and our planner to get to showcase some of the resources that Rockaway has. And we may potentially get that to some of our real estate agents out there. So when people want to move to Rockaway, they know what natural resources we have. That's something that has been, I think, that we haven't showcased enough. In terms of the dog park, once again, Jonathan Sackett was right on the money. That's not in those plans anymore. If anybody would have contacted me, I would have spoken to them on that. I also did look at the plans for a dog park up in where Mr. Councilman Kelly had suggested. I took a look at that last year. A couple residents were a little concerned. It's an isolated area. Some people were concerned about going down there. The isolation, they didn't feel comfortable. So I did look into that to some extent. What else do I have here? Oh, big thing that's going to help us. The state awarded us through the CARES Act almost $290,000 grant used to help us offset some of the expenses for COVID, some of the expenses that we incurred. And some of that grant money is going to be used can be used to reimburse us for protective equipment, for computers that we needed to buy to help some of our employees work from home. We put some rugs with social distancing markers in the entranceway. So that money is going to come in handy. And I thank the state, I thank the governor's office and all the folks that were involved in the legislature to help to make that happen. We have an event this Saturday. It's through the Table of Hope. It's a county organization, and they approached me with having a food drive to help folks with food insecurity. It's going to be held at the Rockaway Mall this Saturday, October 17th, from 9:30 to 12:30. It's a rather large event. It encompasses not just Rockaway Township, but we expect people from the county to come through. I have quite a few volunteers, and if anyone from the council would like to stop down and lend a hand, it's going to be COVID compliant. We're going to have cars. We're going to be receiving the food. We're going to be driving through a line. We're going to be loading their trunks, their vehicles, and then they're going to drive off. They're not even going to be getting out of their cars. I think that is about it. Mr. Kelly had mentioned the fire inspection too, is Saturday, October 17th for our fire department. And I think that's about it. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Yachifano, do you have a report? You're on mute. You're on mute.
Thank you, Council President. No report except to note that under the mayor's direction, Mr. Cerullo has filed a number of open requests for fire reports. Chrissy and I, with the mayor's approval, have done what we can to provide him with all the fire reports based upon his concerns that certain fires were electrical in origin and related to power issues. So we're trying to work with him consistent with what the mayor told you earlier. The only other comment I have is the earlier resolution couched as a motion. I would caution the council for similar future applications. Had that been seconded, I would have had to interrupt to point out to the council that that would have constituted an OPM violation without a separate motion to amend the agenda. So that's all I have, just a note for the future. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Mrs. Seeger?
Yes, I just want to let everybody know the departments are working on their budgets. They are to be submitted by the end of the month, and we should be having the department head meetings in the 1st of November. Thank you.
You. Before I close, I see Liz Peterson's on. I want to welcome her to the team, our new member, deputy clerk. Liz, welcome to the team, and I look forward to working with you. With that said, need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, the meeting's adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.